I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We are continuing in the Gospels. We have read Christ's crucifixion and burial and all the upheavals among the Nephites. And most recently we've been reading of the events immediately after his resurrection. The women come to the tomb, find the angels there, find the tomb empty. They leave, they go tell the apostles. The apostles of Peter and John run and they see the empty tomb for themselves. After they leave, Mary Magdalene returns. And we have the first appearance of Christ after his resurrection, but it is before he has ascended to his Father, before he has actually completed the work. Very beautiful story of his meeting Mary Magdalene. We are now going to turn into Matthew, where we're going to read what is happening, not with the apostles and not with Christ, not his appearances, but what is happening among other people. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. And what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. So we're going to read first in Matthew 28, and then we're going to go back and read a few verses in Matthew 27. But before we read that, remember that in Matthew and Luke, we don't have the account of Christ appearing to Mary Magdalene. That is briefly touched on in Mark and is given more detail in John, but is not mentioned in Matthew or Luke. And so as we continue in Matthew, the last thing we read here was the women finding the tomb empty and the proclamation of the angels. So that's where we're picking it up in Matthew, even though we know that the appearances of Mary Magdalene to Mary Magdalene has occurred. It is not recorded in Matthew. So Matthew 28 first, verses 9 to 15. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail! And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Then said Jesus unto them, Be not afraid. Go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there shall they see me. This is the second appearance of Christ after his resurrection. He appeared to Mary Magdalene at the tomb. The rest of the women are all going. They're going to spread the word, and as they're traveling, he appears to the other women as well. Now, Peter and John were probably in Jerusalem, and the burial place was only a mile or two away. These women are traveling to tell the other apostles, to spread the word. So all that was happening at the tomb with Peter and John and the appearance to Mary Magdalene, all that happens while these women are on the road traveling as they are going out to spread the word. And Christ appears to them here. So this is our second appearance of Christ. I find it interesting that the first people he appears to are all the women. And again, I think he appeared to Mary Magdalene first because he wanted to comfort her, and I do have the opinion, I do agree that they were probably married. The rest of the women here are also given this comfort, to be the first ones to see Christ. They're allowed to touch him, though, which also tells us that he has now ascended to God. He has finished the final steps of the atonement, of the work he needed to do, and is now able to come back as a fully resurrected, glorified being and continue his ministry here. He went to Mary Magdalene first, before he ascended, and that's why he said, Don't touch me right now. But he's letting them touch him. But we continue now, verse 11. Now when they were going, behold, some of the watch came into the city, and shewed unto the chief priests all the things that were done. And when they were assembled with the elders, and had taken counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers, saying, Say ye, his disciples came by night, and stole him away while we slept. And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him, and secure you. So they took the money, and did as they were taught, and this saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. So we have the final conspiracy of the Jews here. The guards, the soldiers that were guarding the tomb, they've now awoken. They've come out of their stupor, and they go into the city and they tell the Jews what happened. And the Pharisees and the other Jewish leaders saying, well, we can't let anybody know what happened. So they bribe them. They bribe them to fabricate a story about the disciples stealing the body in order to create a fraud. And that is the story that is commonly accepted among the Jews, even at the time that Matthew was writing. Now Matthew's probably writing 20, maybe 30 years later. And so this is the story that is being perpetuated by the Jews. Those who reject Christ have this to fall back on. Well, the guard said that you came and stole the body, so I don't have to believe the resurrection. But now let us flip back to chapter 27, verses 52 and 53. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Now remember that Matthew doesn't want to put things in chronological order. He does tell us this happens after the resurrection, but he puts it here at the moment of his death, even before we talk about his burial. Matthew just likes shoehorning things in where he thinks it'll have the most dramatic or most spiritual impact, you might say, but it's definitely not chronological. After Christ is resurrected, and I believe it is after these initial appearances to the women, we have the first stage of the resurrection of the just. Many more are resurrected. I would venture to guess that all the righteous who died before Christ are now resurrected. And they say many of them appear to the saints in the cities. There are many visions, many visitations of resurrected beings, Adam's appearing to some. Maybe Noah. Various appearances are occurring. This was a glorious time, and I don't think we're going to get... This is the only mention of this in the scriptures, at least in the Bible. And I don't think it went on for very long. I think Christ was resurrected. He starts appearing to proclaim his resurrection, and others start appearing to also proclaim his resurrection, but to show that his resurrection is not just for him, but it makes possible our resurrection. That's what this is all about. That's why Matthew puts this in, is to show that, yes, Christ was resurrected, but not only Christ. All these others were resurrected. And this proves that we will be resurrected. Christ has made that possible. Christ has defeated death itself. Let us see if we got a Joseph Smith translation. For chapter 27, verses 52 and 53, says here, and the bodies of the saints which slept arose, who were many. So it's not just many bodies of the saints arose, but the bodies of the saints, all the saints are resurrected, and there were many of them. And then in verse 53, we shift the word and, so it's now, and came out of the graves, and after his resurrection, went into the holy city. Just a minor grammatical correction there. But let us look at 28, verses 9 through 15. We only have two here. In verse 9, at the end there, we take out the word and. All hail, they came and held him by the feet. Take out that hand. And then in verse 13, we take out the word away. So it is now, and stole him while we slept. Minor grammatical correction. So we leave that here, and we are going to be continuing with visitations of Christ over the next several videos, so I will see you there.